Okay, sir. May I have a permission to start, sir? Prakash, sir, may I have a permission to start, sir?
Sure, we can start.
Okay. So, good evening to everyone present here. It's my pleasure to welcome you all. We are honored to host Sri Prakash Jhawar, a distinguished data science and AI leader with more than 14 years of experience across global credit bureaus, banking, insurance, healthcare, and government policy. So, with a strong academic foundation from IIT Guwahati and leadership roles across India and United Arab Emirates, he has led over 25 AI and including major national level analytics program. Sri Jawahar has been instrumental in developing United Arab Emirates National Credit Bureau. He has also made significant contribution at TransUnion CIBIL and is currently advising the Abu Dhabi government on data-driven policy. His expertise in credit analytics, AI deployment, and public sector transformation brings exceptional clarity and real-world depth to our discussion. So today's discussion and session focuses on creating government policies for citizen upliftment using credit bureau and spend data. We warmly welcome Sri Jawahar and look forward to his engaging, insightful session. Thank you, sir, and we all welcome you, and it's over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rom. I hope my voice is very much audible.
Yeah, sir, perfectly audible.
Sure. So let me start with presenting my screen. Just 1 second. Reconfirm me whether my screen is completely visible.
Yeah, sir.
Okay. So today, before I start, I want to thank the organizer of this fantastic program, especially Mr. Kalpesh Gupta for reaching me out. I know him from my earlier association with IIM Ahmedabad, almost 14 years, and a lot of kudos to Mr. Kalpesh for being instrumental for such initiatives. As you all know, that this FDP program is mainly on the technical side of it, that is SPSS tool, and also how we can analyze a lot of data. The other resources have been very instrumental in teaching or taking you through how those technical nuances of this tool can be used, can be explored. Along with that, just to support the other resource persons, today what I'm planning to do is I will take you through a real life case study and the scenario to help you understand how data analytics or any data analytics tool can help you augment a lot of decisions, not only in your academics, also into corporates, and followed by that into government policies. I had the opportunity to work with the credit bureau in India, who has almost largest amount of data, and also for almost 5 years in the credit bureau in UAE. And also right now I'm advising some of the governments here, including the Abu Dhabi government. Here we are also planning and also using some of the data sets which are publicly available data sets, and also to run some of our campaigns and the programs. Before I start, I would like to give you a sort of very high level overview on the kind of use cases where any government policies or interventions can be made possible, and also what are the citizen level impact. So this is just to showcase to you that what can be the possible impact of any data analytics use case, so that you know what is the upper limit of the kind of work which any data analytics resource is doing or is planning to do. I will make sure that this these resources, whatever I'm showing, the slides will be made available. This is a bit heavy in terms of content, and due to the lack of much time, I will possibly go a little bit faster. This is the first slide, which is basically, and before going into the first slide, let me show what are the things I'm planning to cover. The first thing is what are the prospect government use cases, and number two, once we define the use case, how to create a sort of prioritization framework, like which project to do first, which initiatives to take first, and then what is the other sequential initiatives which you can take, so on and so forth. Number three, I will give you a sort of glimpse that how we can create data from data. So this is very important, because any data analytics project, it depends on the kind of data which you will be analyzing. But the catch is, in many of the time, we don't have enough data, but then we say that there is a strong use case, but we don't have data. So the challenges, and which we have also overcome in our past, and based on our real life corporate experience, what we have actually suggested and also we have adopted internally is to create a lot of good data from whatever data is available, at least to create the first version of the analytics or any data science and AI use case. Then I'm going to show you a dashboard overview, that how the final product which you can make from data science, from data, and also using data science and AI algorithms, how that can be used and leveraged on a in the day-to-day operations. Also, finally, I will give a sort of glimpse based on the actual practical experience, that what could be the data strategy and how we can run and augment the end-to-end project as far as the data science and AI use cases are concerned. Let me take a quick stop here just to understand if the flow and the content looks okay. If any one of you can confirm.
Yes, sir. Perfectly fine.
Yes, sir. It looks perfect, fine, sir.
Perfect. Also, just to mention, because it's all the matured professionals who are attending this FDP. So I would like, and I will actually enjoy if it is more like a Q&A. So whenever you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. And before I start, I will also mention that I've also given some of my LinkedIn details. You guys can feel free to connect me, so that if you have any kind of innovative ideas, any suggestions, feel free to um, pass by. Okay, all right. So let me start with some of the prospect use cases. You can see here, I tried to create, three segments. One is the problem. What is the problem we are trying to solve? What are the policy interventions for the problem once we have the solution? And once we take the, intervention in terms of the government policies or any sort of subdivisional or some, local policies, what are the kind of impacts on citizens? Okay. There are three prospect use case. There are many. In fact, these three are something which we are also trying to solve, but we have actually created a sort of our roadmap, and this is very well there. But to go through that roadmap, there is some sort of readiness which we are trying to prepare. Number one is the digital financial inclusion via fintech partnership. This is where there's a lot of credit bureau and the spend data can be leveraged to support the government policies. Then healthcare subsidy and financial literacy program, and also housing subsidy program. Okay, let me, because the audience is mixed from various background. Let me give you a sort of two-line summary that what we are planning to do. For example, right now in the era of digitization, we have data almost from everywhere, but we cannot take every data into considerations because there is PII information, the legal aspect of it, so on and so forth. I'm giving you one use case. For example, you have a lot of credit card and you have some personal loan, okay? And you have taken this credit card and the personal loan from bank A. As per the law, this data is submitted to the bureau, okay? Now you are going to another bank, you are applying for again a sort of loan or a credit card. As per the law, it states that the new bank has every right to check your credit report just to understand whether you have taken any loan in the past. And if you have taken any loan in the past, what is your monthly payment pattern?
Sorry,
Let me,
प्रकाश sorry, sorry for
yes,
interruption. थोड़ा slide show mode पे if you or maybe थोड़ा maximize you
okay.
can do it.
Yeah, yeah, I will. Is it better?
इस बढ़ जाएगा. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry for interruption. Yeah.
No, no problem. Thanks for notifying this. I was just trying to give a sort of example that how the data is, created basically, and what are the kind of data sets available. So in this particular example, what I have just given, which is of course not part of this slide, but I want you to just imagine to create a sort of intuition that you have taken a credit card before 24 months. That means the bank is actually storing your month on month data. So against your name, the bank have 24 months of data. So you can imagine or you can think of an Excel sheet where your name and then 24 row is created. The row is basically pertaining to the, yeah, thank you Manoj for the suggestions. I will do that. So the row is pertaining to the month, and also you will be getting a lot of monthly data points. For example, in month 1, what was your credit limit, for example, and how much you have spent. In month 2, how much you have paid and how much again you have done new spending, so on and so forth. So this is how the data is created. So you can imagine when you take a loan, data against you is created. When you buy a new cell phone, data against you is created. When you have opened a bank account, data is created. You take a new telco, new utility, you register your vehicle, you take license. So all that touch points will create a data against you. That means for a government, of course, proactively checking your data is subject to your legal rights and maybe in what some of the cases, the violations. But in case you are applying for any government programs, and then government may take your consent to check your data. For example, you are applying for the subsidy for a housing, loan, or you are having your, building your new house, and you are applying to your municipality or your respective government, department to give you sort of subsidy. And the subsidy is applicable to only a specific group of people, and that is where government will take a consent from you and will create or fetch data from these multiple aggregators and sources. Now our country, I mean, of course, our country, India, has also become a lot of, there's a maturity in terms of data storage and all. And also internationally also, all the governments are working very proactively to have or to augment the data against every individual. Okay. Now, once we have the right data, we know whom to give support, whom not to give support. So it helps to mitigate a lot of fraud. It helps to, reach out proactively for the government to the, individuals or citizens who needs a sort of support. So this is the crux of this particular slide. I will leave it to you. I mean, once I share, I would encourage everyone to share this. I try to summarize it. You can just Google a little bit that in case you want to deep dive on any point that how it can be done, etc., etc. So now I will move to the second slide, which is a bit more technical. How we can, once we have the use case, how we can create a sort of prioritization framework, means which use case to attempt first and which is to attempt second. Into research, you possibly will do a sort of collaborations with the government, and there, of course, there is a theoretical part of it, which has to be technically, theoretically sound, but at the same time, it should make a sort of business sense. When I say business sense, it may not be necessarily the business value in terms of monetary aspect, but also whether some of this investment in terms of creating or doing this use cases will add any value to the government policies or not. So just to give you an example, you imagine we are planning to create a sort of policy for any individual who is earning, for example, more than 2 CR, or maybe who is earning less than 1,000. Now these are the two extreme pockets, and you can imagine collecting data into these two extremes is a challenge and we cannot validate. But if we create a sort of policy, and then when we apply this policy, we will not be able to apply to the right individual. It means the business case is not that strong. Maybe the analytics or a theoretical data science use case is strong, but business case is not very strong. Okay. Also, number two, we need to see that if any solution is going to add any value which we are not able to do judgmentally. For example, you have 10,000 individual and only 2 have done fraud. Okay. Now, if you are building any kind of fraud prediction model and you are saying that all 10,000 is basically not fraud, right? Then also you are 99 point almost 99% accurate because you missed only 2 times out of 10,000. Let me repeat. Assume there is 10,000 individual and in reality 2 have done fraud. Okay, fraud can be of any nature. Now, if it is being claimed that we have a good AI model in place which will be able to predict fraud, and the prediction says none of them is fraud, all 10,000 is good, but then also you are missing only 2 cases out of this 10,000. It means you are right 99.9% almost. So you can claim that your model is accurate, right? But this model is of no use. Hence, don't get don't get just very much impressed about the model accuracy or the AI accuracy. You need to understand it by applying your domain expertise, by speaking to the stakeholder that what exactly will add value, etc., etc. And that is where the right scoping of any project is very important before you start. Let me take a quick pause just to understand if there is any question or if there is any other views on it. Okay, all right. So here, what I'm trying to, I think someone has raised
Sorry
a,
to interrupt you. Yeah, sir. Mr. Sahu has raised his hand for the question. Sahu, you can unmute yourself and go ahead.
Sir, when you show this sort of a model, basically there are a bit of a probability is coming into picture. So do you cater that in your modeling or what?
yes. So basically, I think just due to the lack of the time, I could not actually orchestrate how the probability is being translated to the final modeling outcome. So basically, when we are trying to get the probability, it means we need to define the target variable, right? So unless you don't do that, your probability will not make any sense. Now, you can imagine historically in the training data, for the same example, 10,000 data points, 2 is fraud. It means your fraud probability is 0.02, right? So that means by default, 99.98% is your chances of being non-fraud. So you need to just create a sort of baseline before you start it, and accordingly you need to augment your probability, and that's correspondingly you need to, and accordingly you need to translate your probability to your actual action points.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
fine?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So here, what I'm trying to show is, it's basically a more like a structure format of what I have been, verbally discussing. That what is the exact prediction model, which is 100% accurate. And please believe me, no model is 100% accurate. Maybe theoretically you will arrive at few of them, but in practicality in corporate, even in the government policies, some of these models may not be of any use, where the actual value is something A and you are also predicting A, and that segment is 100% accurate. It's very rare. And what is the useless model? So when I say useless, it means any AI or analytics model or solutions comes with a sort of investment from infrastructure, from resources, from literature reviews, and then almost it's an activity of maybe 8 to 20 weeks, 30 weeks, so on and so forth, and a lot of stakeholders. And hence there is a sort of expectations. So hence, at the end, if this is a sort of model accuracy where none of them are close to maybe 80 or 90%, maybe the type 1 error, type 2 error, or even the actual versus predicted for your target event, that is also not aligned, then it may not be of good use. So these are the two extremes. One is the useless model, and one is basically a sort of exact prediction model. Maybe a lot of overfitting must have happened there. What could be a sort of realistic model? The realistic model is basically where your prediction is not almost 100 or not, in the both side 100%, but also it's not very close to, zero or lower. So there has to be a sort of good balance. Okay. So in this same example, you can see this 20% and this 15%. This two is something which we are not able to predict properly, and hence there can be a leakage of 35%. So you need to evaluate first by using your domain expertise, and hence any DS project which you are planning to start, you need to engage very closely with the stakeholder. So first step is creating a sort of baseline. What are the sources of info? And at the beginning, you need to ensure that you create a sort of KPI, because you will finish your project and your stakeholder will ask, is this accuracy enough? So you need to mention them. You need to take a proper sign off before going into the before going deeper into your project. While creating a sort of scope of work, you need to ensure that you are aligning the metrics properly, like how you will be evaluate your evaluation metrics. And also you need to plan the ROI, as I mentioned, because analytics comes with an investment, as I mentioned earlier. So whether such investment is enough that you are able to add a lot of business value over time, maybe 6 months, 2 years, 3 years. So you need to create a sort of break-even point, that once you invest now, maybe it will take 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, or maybe, for example, in government case, if you are able to detect the fraud, you need to and especially into insurance also, there is a lot of such use case where you can show them the value that this model may be able to, proactively predict a prospect fraud of maybe 2 million, okay? And your investment is maybe 500,000. So you are creating a sort of 4x value out of this project. And that is where you get a lot of buy-in. There's a lot of stuff here, but again, I just try to summarize based on whatever I could learn based on my experience. So it should be useful for you for if you are planning to go deeper from a use case to creating a sort of priority framework. Let me take a quick stop again here just to understand if there is any questions. Else I will move to some of the actual data where we have created a sort of use cases earlier and how we went ahead with that. Feel free to raise any questions at this point. Okay, all right. Now I will show you that how you can create data from any data which is available to you. Okay. As I mentioned that in many of the cases, your use case will depend a lot on the underlying data. In our specific, area which we are covering today, this is primarily on the credit bureau and the spend data. And I have already articulated how the data more or less looks like and how the entity or the organization generally store data against an individual. So as I mentioned that once any entity or your data sets are being stored, it's not the end of the data pipeline. Okay, so once the data is stored, it has to flow, it has to clean. There's a lot of activity around it. There's a data engineering team, data architecture team. Everyone is has to do a lot of data juggling around it to create the right data. Okay, now once you create data, you cannot just start using it for your any of the analytics or data science use case. You need to create a sort of variables, more and more features. For example, you have 5 loans and hence every month the EMI is, for example, average 2000 INR is your EMI. So you are paying 10,000 your EMI. Okay. Now, if your monthly salary, for example, is 1 lakh, or for example, if it is 50,000, then you can actually create that how much of the 50,000 you are spending as your EMI. So in this case, it will be 10,000 by 50. It means around 20%, and this is what is called DBR. Let me repeat this example because it is easy to understand. You have 5 loans. You are paying average 2,000 rupees per month as your EMI, and your salary is 50,000. That means you are paying 20% of your salary as your, and that means 20% is your DBR. Okay. When you are applying to the bank, they will check. They have, for example, access to your backend data. Now their predictive model possibly have this as a variable or a rule set that if the DBR is more than 15%, for example, just to assume hypothetically, and then you will not be getting a loan. So that means automatically it will get rejected. Now you will see, now you can also imagine there's a lot of customer experience around it. Now any business development officer is with you with his mobile app, and he is giving your information. He is collecting information from you, your date of birth, your, for example, your last salary, your marital status, so on and so forth, mobile number and everything. And in 2 minutes he will tell you, okay, your loan is approved. It will take 2 days time. At the same time, he can say that your loan is not approved. So how he is taking decisions such so fast? Because those data sets are connected and they have created a sort of lot of variables in the backend, which is automatically being calculated. And one of the example which I have given is DBR. Similarly, you can imagine, and honestly, today in today's world, don't have the impression that they will only calculate 3 4 basic variables. No, there are organizations who are investing a lot in their tech, in their data. They're creating 15,000, 20,000 data points against you, which against any individual, or maybe any such touch points in terms of their customers, to analyze better, to understand better. So maybe we don't know our spending habits, our you know uh, appetite to take credit that much as the bank know, and hence they proactively reach out to you for some offers. And of course everything is based on your consent, and whenever you apply, so within the purview of all the legalities and the formalities. Let me take a quick stop here because it gone a little bit more technical and complicated version of it. If you have any questions at the point, please feel free to raise your hand or ask directly. Okay, all right.
Well, sir, I have a question to ask.
Yeah.
Sir, when you are explaining all these things, so, is this ambit of policy making or policy ideation?
Nice. See, basically, policy making is, see, I will take a step back actually. I will try to tell you in terms of policy implementations, right? Now, before the implementation stage, there's a lot of proposal going, because there are multiple layers, especially into the governments and other bureaucratic processes. I'm part of some of the processes in UAE. But having said that, when all these ideations happens, the ideation happens not only theoretically, but also based on the actual evidence of data. For example, when someone is proposing a policy using DBR into consideration, they have a sort of rough number that, for example, in a country like India, just to give a sort of number, this is not actual, but just for a hypothetical representations, they must have a sort of number that what is the percentage of individual who have taken a loan and who are having an active loan, and the DBR is, for example, more than 50%, more than 30, more than 10, so that they have some sort of talking terms. Now, unless you don't create this variable, you will not be able to ideate. You will not be able to get the buy-in from your, top, from your boss, from the bureaucratic authorities, and hence implementation is a far-fetched, topic in that sense. So better be prepared and create as much as possible information from the information what you have. I will repeat this part. Create data from the data. This is a new new era of the digital transformation. The more you will be able to go deeper, and from the, for example, just to give an example, we have built a sort of fraud claim fraud prediction model for an insurance company almost 7 years back for a public sector bank, and we only got at what date the individual has applied. So we created, and for example, if it is 7th of that month, now 7th of February can be 4th working day, and 7th of March can be 3rd working day. So we have created what is the nth working day, and then from the start of the month, from the end of the month. So long story short, in your ideation stage, you need to create a lot of features, a lot of information, and your any of the project should allocate minimum 50 to 60% of your time for this ideation and data preparations and information collection, that particular pipeline. I hope I have answered to your questions.
Great, great. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. I will not go deeper now. I just try to give a sort of glimpse that what's the use or how we prepare any sort of data from the data sets available. It can be from the credit data, it can be from spend. Now you can imagine, you can think through. I would appreciate if you guys can think through any of the data sets you have worked on, and you have created any sort of innovative variable. because that is where I feel a lot of innovations are possible. And otherwise, if you only talk about the algorithms and the AI use cases, more or less there is no such differentiation between one individual or one team with another team. Of course, the crux remains into the literature reviews and the way you ideate at the very beginning. This will actually uh, create a sort of upliftment of your use case which you are possibly creating. Okay. Let me take a step back, and just to sort of recap, what we have started is we have created a sort of use case for you to understand that what are the impacts of data, how the data can be leveraged. And the data is now everywhere, and it can even be leveraged to the creation of a country level government policies as well. We have created a sort of prioritization framework where we have articulated that once we have a sort of use case, how to go step 1, step 2, step 3. These are some of your initial guiding points, but it is not a sort of exhaustive list. It comes with your experience and the more use case you will be working on this. Then I have created a sort of glimpse that how we can create data from data, whatever is available. And let me tell you that once you have the data, the priority, you create a sort of use case, you work on the actual use case. Imagine, and I always take the example of creating a scorecard because it helps for a layman to understand it better, because not everyone is that much technical, right? Hence, what we do in our day-to-day operations, in our job profiles, our roles in supporting the policy advisors, we try to give them a sort of glimpse about how the particular data would look like once we complete. Okay, and this has to be done at the very beginning, where, for example, if you see this view, just focus on the right side, which is the high, medium, and low. It means I'm giving a sort of confidence that I will be able to pick and choose the top percentile who are risky, who needs attention, so on and so forth, right? And also you can augment this with a additional layers of data as you feel free. And also it depends on many of the other requirements. So this is a sort of a view of the kind of use case, okay, which you can think of developing. Like in India Bureau, when I was working, you have the CIBIL score, like when you go to the bank. Now the score means it is a 3-digit score. Like in India, it's become between 300 to 900, where 900 means you are a good individual, good credit borrower. 300 means you are not a good credit borrower, right? Now, what does it mean? It's a population of 100 CR plus, and maybe 50 CR have a sort of credit footprint. Now, maybe there are 10 lakh individual who is getting 300 score. There can be 10 lakh additional individual who are getting 900 score. So what it is precisely telling is those who are getting score below a certain number, they are high risky and others are low risky. It does not mean all high risky are bad and all low risky are very good. It is just a sort of priority. For example, today we have a group of maybe 100 individuals, maybe 10 are paying, are able to grasp it as much as they can because they are having the technical background and they start trying. So if I need to pick and choose the 10, and in the other context which I was giving, picking and choosing the 10 or the top 10 percentile, this is where any analytics use case can actually add a lot of value to pick and choose. The model says, if you choose the top 10% based on my suggestion, your conversion rate would be much higher than you choose randomly. Let me repeat. And this is where the beauty of analytics, and this is where maybe you can think of convincing your stakeholders to adopt analytics and to leverage data into the day-to-day operations. Okay. So for example, you are into a call center, you are advised to improve the efficiency in a call center. Now what they get, okay, please don't refer to this slide because I'm just giving a different example here. where they get maybe 10,000 phone numbers, and by their bosses, they were told that please call them for a loan. Okay. Now, where from they got this 10,000? Because they must have a data pool of maybe 2 to 3 CR individual, because that is the customer of the bank. But they're only picking and choosing 10,000 because this 10,000 is selected based on any analytics outcome, where they have shown them using A/B test that if you chase this 10,000 versus random 10,000, maybe out of the first 10,000, 100 will take the product. Out of the second 10,000, only one will take the product. So I'm giving a 100x lift, for example, and hence please focus more on the leads or data shared by any of the analytics outcomes. So this is one of them, and you can augment it with many other, internal policies, external variables, and this is just a sort of sample view. I have two more things to cover. One is at a government level, how the data strategy is something which we create, and how we can run a project end to end. What are the skill sets? What are the kind of data points? And what are the kind of technical resources, etc. is required. So before going there, let me take a stop here and let me open this forum for the Q&A, and then I will end it with a sort of the final two slides. I hope that's fine.
And take up the final round of questions at the last, once you complete the entire presentations or slides. Then we can proceed with the final round of the question and answer sessions with the participants.
Okay. Okay.
Sir,
Makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
sir, actually one question that is based on the dashboard you have presented here. So,
Yeah.
so what kind of dashboard is this? Like, is this something which is freely available, or it has been created for particular project or a particular industry that was set in mind?
So it is basically a sort of a real project dashboard by deleting a lot of confidential informations. And this is just a sort of, articulation that because we have already discussed about the initial stage, that what are the kind of impacts at a policy level it can do, and then how we can, see the final product. Now, whatever you see here, it's a sort of final product where in the top you can see a sort of high, medium, and low, right? And you can see also a sort of month. So what I try to explain here, or try to give you a sort of initial thought points around automating some of your data pipeline, so that at the end you can create a sort of dashboard which your stakeholder can see visually, who are also not that technical, and also show them how these views are getting changed on a monthly or a daily basis. So for now, whatever you can see here, it's for a particular industry, where at a, for example, government level, we track, right, that some of the citizens might have come to us asking for some sort of support, because they are possibly much lower than the average baseline of the country, and we have evaluated, we have given them some money. Now, whether they are spending the money correctly or not, so we might have the sort of footprints against their spend, right, or against the multiple touch points where they are having a sort of association financially, and we are trying to see. And we have also created, for example, some sort of 500 to 700 variables, which is allowing us to sort of associate a risk indicator around it, and we want to just monitor few of them. Now, it's not easy for us to monitor everyone, so we are creating a sort of indicator. So you can imagine this view is about a sort of monitoring tool which can be refreshed on a monthly. In your exam use case, you might be working on. It can be even daily, it can be even hourly. So for example, in algo trading, it can be hourly, right? In other industry, it can be daily. So depending on the industry, you can just create a different view on it. But this view can give you a sort of guideline, and you can, uh, cut it through across other industry based on, some of the information is available here.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Any other questions here? Okay, all right. So let me go deeper into the kind of strategies which we can create at a policy, while creating a sort of policy. Okay. As I have already shown you that some of the indicators like risk indicators, which gives a sort of monthly view on how risky, or how what is the kind of score in terms of the vulnerability, and we identify maybe three categories: high, medium, low, or we can even categorize it into five. For example, very high risk, your high risk, which is your second here, maybe medium risk, low risk, and very low risk, right? Now, once we identify them and we see a sort of consistency across months, and we have given a sort of indicative, distribution against, how much individuals may be impacted, or maybe having that kind of risk score, and just to understand that what is the size, sample size which you are looking at, which can be impacted if you are taking any kind of policy decisions. Okay. Now, as I have mentioned, these two groups are basically your most risky groups, and the lower two are the most, the best individuals. Basically, we can create a lot of good, incentives for them. For example, when we say, for the same use case that they reached out to the government for some government support, and we are giving them sort of support, they are utilizing the support in a good way, and hence they are low and very low risk. We are trying to give them some sort of allowances, right? We are, maybe sending the money in their bank account, and then we are giving them a sort of card. But now we know that even if we allow them for more money, they will possibly not use it wrongly, right? So we check sometimes the other external data to give them sort of incentives. Maybe they have some debt. We say, okay, you are already, utilizing the money for the betterment of your life, or to, for the basic needs. And from your debt, we see that yes, you are even needy. So maybe we can offer them some more incentives, right? And these incentives can be in many form. It can be some sort of, some sort of economic support for their day-to-day needs, or maybe to start them some venture around it, or maybe their kids are going to the university or the school, to give them sort of child allowances. So there are a lot of such government programs which we can run based on some of these initiatives. And we can also, at the ideation stage, we can create a sort of ballpark indicator that what is the possible, impact, what is the possible portion of the population or the citizens which can be impacted. So this is just a sort of giving a sort of initial numbers for the approvers to approve any kind of such initiatives, where data can be augmented to help or to uplift the citizens' life better. All right. Any questions here? Okay. Um, let me uh, let me take you through, from a technical point of view, that how we can, you can run any such kind of project end to end, and what are the kind of technical
Yeah,
KPIs, what are the kind of, yeah.
I have one question here, Prakash. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have observed last few months because we applied for a loan personally. So that I got to know when we keep checking our CIBIL score, so it's reducing. Any
Yeah.
reason for that?
Yes. So as I mentioned, I think Kalpesh bhai, this is a very good question and very much into the context. So basically, what happens is, as I mentioned, the bank have already stored your last 24 month, 4 month of information. Now today you are capturing, they are capturing your score basis your 24 months data before today. After 2 months, if you check, your 25th and 26th months information is gone. So new 2 month has come and old 22 month has, were again repeated. So every month you are checking, your 1 month information is going out, 1 month new information is coming in, and that is where it is getting changed. I hope I have answered your questions.
I think I was thinking some negative impact. We keep checking. So again, this is the reason that you told. Actual data they, last 24 months they are checking.
See, it can be 24 months, it can be 36 months. Now, if we don't know because it is not being disclosed that what exactly they consider, they, take in the final model. Maybe they are also calculating how many times you are inquiring your credit card or you are checking for your report. And that is part of your final underwriting. So imagine the situation where you are checking in the Make My Trip the ticket price from maybe Surat to Mumbai every 10 minutes. Now suddenly you will see a sort of changes in the and most of the cases it will increase. So it depends on what is their prior experience. For example, if Bank A and Bank B, they have seen those who check CIBIL report more, they are more likely to default versus bank 2, they know that checking does not matter. So bank A in their underwriting, they will keep that as a variable. Bank 2 will not keep. So when you are taking in bank A, you will see on a monthly basis your score is not impacting. They are internal. I mean, the CIBIL score is generic, but a bank is always giving you a sort of approval. But bank 2 will always change your decision because maybe in the last month you have checked 10 times and in the next month you are checking only 1 time, so on and so forth. So they are smart and they are smartly keeping a track on not only your data but all those who are checking more versus all those who are checking lesser. And then they have these two segments, they have a sort of default rate. Maybe the segment 1 have 2%, segment 2 has 8%. So they know when someone is checking more the chances are higher, so on and so forth.
You have noticed it is reduced last few months. My experience, that bank checked and because we applied for loan as I told you, so it reduced. It was more than 800. Now it's reduced by 10-15 points because of they keep checking. Yes, Siddhisman.
Okay, yeah, it's possible, it's possible very much.
So, coming from an academic background, means I always imagine India is a large scattered market when it comes to spending every day. So, what policy design frameworks are most suitable for using like credit cards or such a spending data on debit cards? Means in order to uplift the low income groups, because low income groups always spend very vaguely.
Yeah,
So, how do you suggest policy design changes?
yeah. See, basically, this was somehow part of my slide, but I could not go, gone deeper. So you can imagine the example which I'm giving, which is the low income segment. We can also create another segment which is relatively higher income. Now, for the low income, let us first try to define what is the low income group and what they are supposed to do if they have money, right? Now, once we ideate on it, a lot of things will be clear, and we can actually give a sort of create a hypothesis that the low income segment, the spending should be for necessity. There should not be much high ticket size spending. There should not be much leisure spending, but it should be around necessity, maybe medical bills, maybe transportation, child allowances, so on and so forth. Having said that, you cannot just penalize or judge any individual for any spending because the objective is not to judge, right? The objective is just to help them understand that there is a good scope, that with awareness they can do something better which will ultimately help them. So you can keep a sort of indicator. Maybe in the last 6 months, how many times they have spent more than 500 dirham. They have made 2 transactions in the weekend from the money which government has given, or maybe some other XYZ sources. Now, over time, if you can show them and say that in the weekend you are making 50 transactions of 50 dirham, 50 rupees, 10 rupees, and so on and so forth. And what is it? And these spendings are not in a particular location where which is much far from the place which you stay. And the person himself will say, oh yeah, I had a bad spending habit. So the objective is to show them what they don't know or what they have missed possibly. And this is where the starting point can be, which will be non-debatable, because the individual will also accept that I know I have been doing, but I could not really track initially. And once those individuals are having the confidence of this kind of findings, that is where a moral, more sophisticated, more robust, logics or policies can be enabled. So step one for this segment, I feel it's a lot of ideations and additional information required, but to have the confidence, to give the confidence to the citizen that the objective is their upliftment, show them that this is how it can help, and followed by that enforce or apply some sort of government policy to uplift those individuals by allowing them or showing them additional such nuances or some scenarios which they might not be aware of.
So, sir, continuing on the same question, means when most of the government across the globe are looking to create a centralized citizen financial profile,
Yeah.
so how would you access or handle those unstructured spend data?
See, this is a challenge, and honestly, it's not easy to tackle, and that is where there's a lot of NBFCs and lot of for example, there are um, loan provider like P2P lenders who are giving loan for a 36 to 40% interest also, and it is about lack of awareness. And if you see, once you get a slide, we have created a sort of alternate scoring mechanism. So right now what happens is your credit score or your banking internal scores are getting improved when we have the association, right? But what if you don't have but you are good? So the bank don't know you, right? So that is where a lot of, in fact, in other countries, when we evaluate the proposals for multiple other countries, we see there is one of the country, I will not be able to refer the name of the country, but they do a lot of assessment based on the psychometric data. They will ask you maybe 50 to 100 questions, okay? And based on that questions, and also they know historically those who have answered for question number one, answer is A, and if that group is 300 individual, and historically they have seen that from these 300 individual, two has defaulted and rest has not defaulted. And that is why they try to create correlation. See, at the end, it's about creating a correlation. If you don't have the actual data, you create a sort of correlation with the actual data. And this two feature may be much different than each other, right? But with a pinch of salt, it may not be 100% accurate, but just to run your initial pilot and then further feedback looping with the help of AI and analytics use case, and adding some sort of literature reviews on top of it, you can actually create what you could have created when you have the data. So a lot of such research and use cases, case studies are being developed currently around it.
Thank
I hope that answers your
yeah,
questions.
yes.
Uh, so, uh, sir, when we are looking like based on the there's no furthering into the question that Om has produced, sir, is scammed individual or individuals who have been affected by predatory loan providers. So there is a high rise in this kind of cases, particularly in India. Does
Absolutely.
this kind of so does this kind of variable are being considered while creation of the spend data and the credit bureau data? Does that affect in certain way and how do it's being tracked or been looked into the authenticity of that case? If somebody is scammed, then how do we authenticate that the individual's data is true or is based on this spending nature?
See, honestly speaking, you know, the scenario which you are giving, that is definitely a sort of good data to have. But if you see the overall, you know, distribution around this data, the scam, you know, it is basically a class imbalance data. You don't have lot of spammers, but whenever they spam, it is a high ticket size spam. They will get a sort of good amount of money. Maybe your income is maybe 10,000, you end up paying something wrongly, 40,000 or 50,000, something like that. Now, this particular group, is, you know, one, if they apply for any kind of fraud, you know, the sort of insurance, basically, that is where they will possibly try to um, collect some of this data and then try to leverage. But at the starting point of any kind of policies, these data are more into the outliers, because the objective is, once you have the right set of data which is available for 80 to 90% of the citizens, and you leverage that, because you cannot just really add the scam data and then, you know, for 95% or 98% this is not available, and you end up thinking for some imputation idea, right? And
Okay.
hence it becomes difficult for the policymakers, though they don't know that this data will add a lot of value, but it can be leveraged outside the model. For example, you are giving a sort of support and you are denying them that no, I will not give them. And hence you open a sort of portal and asking them to give some sort of text. They can write it back, and you can do some sort of text mining using some RAG or some LLM or AI, and just to analyze that, okay, this person is saying that I am rejected, but I have this problem. Now it is up to your owners that whether you will be able to take those information into your, you know, further feedback looping while quantifying it. But at a larger scale, the sparse data is very difficult to accommodate while creating a sort of policies at ideation stage.
But this becomes very outlier. But I think again, I may be wrong, but so for somebody who is affected by predatory loan sharks, does that have, in your experience, have it ever shown within the, standard deviation model within the framework, within the, code dispersion, or it has been always at the outlier side in that sense?
Um, s- See, this basically, we have been, you know, getting a lot of such outlier cases also. But, you know, as I mentioned, that uh, when you are just at an initial stage of guiding the policy using your data, and honestly, the kind of scorecards or kind of frameworks which have recently launched, and it is being, you know, integrated to many of the decision makings, we are not really planning, at least in the next 2 quarters, to do any kind of feedback looping based on one or two individuals information. There has to be a good number of, you know, such complaints, and then only it gives a sort of it is becoming eligible for our considerations and to change our any of the policy engines. So we are just collecting those informations, and we are enabling, you know, every individual to you know, give us the feedback. But how and up to what extent it can be accommodated, that
Sure.
is subject to a lot of other due diligences.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, good evening. Sir, I'm having two doubts. The first one, how you analyze of these data. The second doubt, if as a public, can I get these data through the Right to Information Act from you? From you means that's from the bureau, credit bureau.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, if your objective, it depends entirely on your objective. If your objective is, for example, research publications, right? That you really want to propose something which was not being done so far, and you possibly want to write a sort of thesis around it or do some of your research work around it, and that is where there are a lot of entities. I can give you one name. And of course, don't think I'm actually proposing anything on behalf of the government of India, honestly, and also neither for any other government. I'm just giving some sort of food for thoughts that how any of the data can be utilized, and we do it. We do a lot, but not necessarily whatever I have proposed. But I can give you some sort of kick starting point. Like there is a portal called UCLA Machine Learning Repository. Okay, that's a publicly available, public data sets are there. So if you want to, create any of use case, you just need to Google and write some sort of, keywords from this particular repository, and it will help you to, to get almost a sort of replica of the actual data. There are a lot of such, foundations who works very closely with the actual entities to upload their data for the public, so that they can create some sort of good use case for the entity to adopt at a later stage. Now, I hope this would answer your two of your questions. Now, once you have your data, now you can use SPSS, you can use any of the other open source libraries, you can use a sort of, any other licensed one as well, just to sort of dig deeper and try to analyze. And just to tell you again, when you start analyzing the data, don't just start using the raw data. You please clean it, invest 40 to 50% of your entire allocated time for the project on the data processing, data cleaning, and then creating a lot of features. The way I have also explained, those can be your guiding points, but this should ideally be a sort of right roadmap for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
You have ended your presentation, sir.
Yeah, my presentation is done. Maybe we can keep this, whatever time is left for any other kind of
Okay, sir.
interactions with the team and all.
Excuse me,
Okay, sir.
sir.
Sir,
Perfect, sir. Thank you.
may I ask a
Yes,
question,
sir.
sir?
Yeah, sure.
Sir,
Can you,
I must
before you ask question, can I ask the audience to please raise your hand so that I know that how much time I can spend to answer the questions. If there is not much, maybe
Yes,
I
sir.
will
This will be
extend it.
sure, sure. This will be last question by JK Sahu, and then we'll close.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Sir,
Yes, doc.
I must compliment as far as subject very well covered. The broad canvas is very well done. But what you have spoken is basically the front end tool as a user thing. In the back end, just since it is an SPSS capsule, do you actually use SPSS for this sort of a commercial use, or you actually use any other tool? Can you just give a little more insight into the
Sure.
various tools available?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have any other follow-up questions?
No, sir, for your engaging and exceptionally insightful presentation, sir.
Yeah.
We'll be ending this
Yeah,
session, sir.
sorry. I will just answer the question, before you go into the
Okay.
concludatory remarks. I think the question asked by Mr. Sahu is very, very relevant, at least in today's world, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, where there's a multiple, influx of the tools available in the market. So, Professor Sahu, the thing is, when I started before 14, 15 years, I have been using R and Python, the open source tools, primarily R Studio. Then I moved to Python. We have also used Alterian, RapidMiner. There is Alteryx. We have used SAS. Honestly, SPSS in that node a little bit, 2008 to 12 heavy tool as for me. But having said that, in academics it is very widely used because many of the top-notch researchers, they are quite well versed, and for them it is not very easy, honestly, or they don't have that much possibly time to again shift to another tool, because at the end tool does only a sort of work of the data crunching. But in the corporate, we need to change our style because there is a lot of cost along associated with that. So hence we kept on changing the tool, and right now the tool which we use, especially in UAE, it's basically into the Microsoft based and into the cloud. And the beauty is, there is no such different tools like Power BI, or or you don't need to go to a server then create your sort of code. So we are doing right now in PySpark, honestly, because it is completely code based. For the visualizations we use Power BI, but SPSS for the research and academics, it is widely used. In today's session, as I mentioned in the beginning, though the idea was to connect on the SPSS part, but just to support the resources who have been teaching onto these technicalities on what are the kind of end, because once you use a tool, you need to understand what are the kind of impacts you can make by using any such tool. And that was the bigger objective. And now maybe you can take a sort of random data as for the use cases which is mentioned here, try to upload in the tool, and then just to see and create a sort of use cases around the data sets which you'd possibly be having. I hope that answers to your questions.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your response.
Sure, sure.
So perfect, sir. Thank you, sir, for your insightful and impactful session. I guess today's explanation on how credit bureau data and government spend data can be integrated to design evidence-based policies for citizen upliftment. So, sir's real-world examples, drawing from his expertise, from his work in both UAE, India, and government, made today's session both practical and deeply relevant. So thank you to everyone also who joined and contributed to this engaging session. We look forward to continued learning and more such enriching sessions. Before closing the session, just respond to the feedback forms sent to the group. And with that, we'll be continuing our next day session. Thank you all. Good night. Take care.
Yes, thank you, Prakash, for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Om, and thank you, participant, for joining. See you tomorrow. Thank you very much.